Uh, Continuation on postmodernism. The next session, please make the presentation. Landmarks in postmodernism, Habermas, Lyotard and Baudrillard. So these are the major figures we are going to talk about in this session. A major moment in the history of postmodernism is the influential paper Modernity, an Incomplete Project. We are talking about postmodernism, so that Modernity, an Incomplete Project as a title you see here, and we will see what the writer has to, what the theorist has to say about that. Okay. He gave a contemporary delivered by the contemporary German theorist Jürgen Habermas. Please see the pronunciation Jürgen. J is most often pronounced to be Jürgen Habermas in 1980s. For Habermas, the modern period begins with the Enlightenment. Modern period begins with the Enlightenment. The last session I mentioned about this, but not about enlightenment at a greater length. We have to talk about that also. The period about the 100 years from the mid 17th to the mid 18th century, when a new faith arose in the power of reason to improve human society. This is the main idea. That is, enlightenment is about giving importance to human reason. That is, you are confident about human reason. You have much confidence in human reason and their power to think, power to act, if you are given proper education and better improvement factors like professional growth, much other components like better facility, better life situations. So that is about a kind of confidence in human power, human capabilities. But can you expect that enlightenment to provide a freedom without any restrictions? No. This is about, enlightenment is completely about giving you freedom to be educated with the maximum expectation that your education, your quality, your professionalism will do something better for the society. If you are educated, if you are given education, if you become a professional, you can contribute something for the betterment of the society. This is not at all about the freedom we mean in the mode of you have freedom for everything, you have unrestricted freedom in every domain of your life. No. This is about power of reason to improve human society. Main concern is about the human society itself. Okay. And such ideas are expressed or embodied in the philosophy of Kant in Germany, Immanuel Kant in Germany, Voltaire and Diderot in France, and Locke and Hume in Britain. So different nations, you can see the Enlightenment as a huge wave that is completely, that has its impact on every geographical region. Different nations with different theorists, different proponents, but coming forward with the same kind of idea. And that's why I told you in Britain, the term the age of reason. Think about that. Age of reason. The kind of freedom we mean, if you promote, it's not about reason, but about you are doing something without having much logic, much restrictions. But here it is about the age of reason. Okay, so it is about designating the same period. That is to talk about this Enlightenment period. Different nations with the different proponents, if that comes, they called it with the different names. But what this movement mean and what it does have to do with the modernism or postmodernism later in our discussion. That's what we have to see. By enlightenment, if they say that enlightenment is about reason, human power, actually what does it have, what is the importance of discussing this? along with the modernism, because he says that modern period begins with, Habermas claims that modern period begins with the Enlightenment. In literature, if you mark down the period, modernism doesn't begin in the say 18th century or in 18th or 17th centuries. Literature, the techniques, the different new and innovative styles in writing, narration, these do not begin in the 17th or 18th century, but they talk about the seeds being or getting germinate from that time period itself. The human thought, the human power, reason, that is beginning to pop up from that time itself with the Enlightenment. Okay, so after that we see in modernism, actually we see people without having any reason, without living without reason, or the life itself becoming unreasonable without having anything to do with reason. You are fighting world war, fought between different numerous nations, different powers, powerful nations, powerless nations, privileged nations, privileged people, underprivileged sectors, all of them suffering equally well. So these are completely out of the question of reason actually. So why do they talk about, or why does this person talk about Enlightenment in connection with the modernism? That's what we have to say. So the so-called Enlightenment project is the fostering of this belief that a break with the tradition, blind habit and slavish obedience to religious precepts and prohibitions, coupled with the application of reason and logic by the disinterested individual, can bring about a solution to the problems of society. That is our point. You see, it is in highlighted manner there. That is, it's about enlightenment as such. If you take in whichever century it may be, it is about the break with the tradition. Don't you see that in modernism? Exactly, you see it. You do see that. Even though you are lamenting over that, you are going for a break with the tradition. The continuous narration, continuous narrative, omniscient narrator, harmonious events, plot, all these are traditional, and you are breaking with that. You opt for a break with that kind of a tradition. In whichever sector it may be, you definitely go for a break with that kind of a tradition. Then what about blind habit? Blind habits like, yes, I am supposed to be like this, I am supposed to be like that, I belong to such and such religion, or I belong to such and such class, caste, creed, nationality, or I belong to such a gender, so I'm supposed to wear only such kind of a dress. I hold this profession, or I hold that profession. I am such a my professional sector demands this kind of a dress, that kind of a dress. I belong to this region, so my food item should be this. My staple food, I never will change my staple food. All these are blind habits. You would like to try something different. Sometimes because of out of necessity, you have to opt for something else, like food, dress, many other cultural habits. You cannot always stick on to. You know, the way after this technology, communication technology, as well as transportation facilities, globalization, how the world is now open for everyone, how many people migrate from this place to that place, from countries to countries. So if you stick on to your food culture, if you stick on to your dress culture, you say that after reaching in a region that has a minus degree, you stick on to, you say that I will wear only sari, I will wear only mundu shirt, I will never wear coat, I don't like that, it is not part of my culture. These are blind habits which you are now at least compelled to stay away from. At least you are compelled to give up at times when your life and situations demand. And the slavish obedience, sometimes these are like slavish obedience. You are born and brought up and practicing such and such habits. Your family demands that. So even at the moments of necessity, you are not ready to give up. You are not willing to give up such practices. That also is a kind of blind habit, slavish obedience to religious precepts and prohibitions. Most often it's about religious precepts. And many other like ideological domination on the part of familial beliefs, familial systems, demands, cultural habits. These are prohibitions on you, and at least at times you are supposed to or you are compelled to stay away from this. So enlightenment has been talking about these ideas, or at least introducing these ideas. So how will you come out of these chains that is told here, coupled with the application of reason? You just reason. I am in an area now, not in a nation where the climate is completely affordable. That will not have much that will not cause much difficulty even if I wear a casual dress like that. But if you go and stick on to this in a space, in a geographical location where the climate is taking a toll on your health, if you do not wear much some coat or other protective dress materials like coat, or you know how it is protective, it's protective as well, not just as part of following fashion. That is a kind of applying reason. I am talking about the extreme modern or postmodern situation where you people have to travel not just from one country, one state to another, but from different nations to from one nation to different other nations, where you have everything different in terms of food, dress culture, food culture, climatic conditions. If you do not apply your reason there, you are definitely going to suffer. Your health is going to be affected. So that is the way you talk about application of reason and logic by the disinterested individual. You should be very disinterested. What do you mean by that? Disinterested. You are not biased. You are not interested, not in the sense negative, not in the negative sense, but you are ready to, willing to apply your reason as and when the situation demands. That is it. Can bring about a solution to the problems of society. This can become a problem if you migrate to another nation in search of a better professional life, for some educational needs, educational purpose. You stick on to, you do not apply your reason and stick on to what you say, this cultural, familial and any other demands, you are going to be affected. Your purpose of migrating, your purpose of travel, your intention to shift, nothing will bring you any effect, because you are going to suffer in another ways. That's why you're talking or enlightenment project is completely, or at a basic level, is about applying your reason on behalf of something, the solutions to the problem. These are about the solution. This is about the solution to the problems of society in general. If it is about 17th century, 18th century or 21st century, problems of problems in human society, that can be there at every point of time. So you have to expect that, and you have to find solution by applying your reason as well. Okay, this outlook is what Habermas means by modernity. That modernity is an incomplete project as far as his ideas, his understanding is concerned. Modernity. So it's a condition. Modernity or postmodernity, it's a condition. You cannot say that this exists between this time and that time, or this is between this time period and that time period. As you talk about Chaucerian period, as you talk about Elizabethan period, Victorian period, you can mark down by referring to the time period, ages, like 1901 to this. So this is the way you normally mark down the period, difference in historical time period. But modernity, he says, this is the idea. The individual, they are changing according to the situation, and the positive kind of changes by applying your reason as per the situational demands. But he says that modernity is an incomplete project. So the French Revolution, again another major historical event like the French Revolution, can be seen as a first attempt to test this theory in practice. How we can do something, or how we can go for the betterment of human society. Like you know the captions promoted by French Revolution: liberty, equality, fraternity, and how much impact the motto of French Revolution has on different other movements that came in the later time, at a later stage, like even Marxist movement, the thoughts on equality, erasing the difference between the working class and the bourgeois sector. All these ideas, they all take from this French Revolution and many other movements that promoted the upheaval of the equality and betterment of a human society. In that regard, French Revolution was again a testing of this theory into practice, how much we can do something for our society. For Habermas, this faith in reason and possibility, and the possibility of progress, survived into 20th century. Into the 20th century, even now we can see, with the modernism also we can see. Just think about that. This modernism, or at least an attempt to accept the situation, the negative impact brought by World War. This is about accepting. That is, yes, world is like this. It is affected to a greater length by World War and the negative impact caused by that. So, with the whatever is available, we have to rebuild. In art, let us represent the reality. So, let people understand the clear picture of the present day time. And then let them come into terms with this reality. And from there, let them go forward with the whatever is available. This is the stand. So, in that regard, it is about testing the theory into practice. The faith in the reason and the possibility of progress survived into the 20th century. So, 20th century is badly in want of such a theory, such a stand. Okay, and even survives the catalogue of disasters which makes up this century's history. So these are the disasters of World War. The history of this time period can never be the one without these disasters. Without mentioning the disasters of that world wars, there is no history for 20th century at all, right? So the cultural movement known as modernism subscribed to this project in the sense that it constituted a layman for the lost sense of purpose, a lost coherence, a lost system of values. Now it is clear. After accepting, even then they know that the lost sense of purpose is still there. We no longer have the claim upon human power to control everything. The centered values, human-centered values. Human beings as the center of importance. everything related to humanity being very coherent with maximum values and systems, established systems. All these are scattered and shattered in one nuclear explosion. More than enough for it to shatter every human system. So this is about an acceptance. Come, attempt to go forward or move forward. At least we have to live. World is scattered, shattered. It takes time for us to rebuild. That's why every time we mention about the still ongoing difficulties of the victims in Hiroshima, Nagasaki. Still, kids are born there with the physical deficiencies. Think about the long years. Or it is about not just not at all a recent event, but still, even now, the impact of the nuclear explosion, the chemicals, the impact of a chemical to affect any human, any biological cell. So inherently they are transferring their it's almost like a process of handover is happening in between. The deficiencies, the physical and mental difficulties are going on in between the generations of biological. It's not just about human beings. Obviously, if human beings are affected, we have to expect other beings, other living beings also having these difficulties. As human beings are studied in general, or their problems are analyzed in general, we talk about them. That's all. We don't know about we are not much aware, or it's not much talked about the difficulties or the problems of the other animal sectors because of the impact of the nuclear war and all, or nuclear weapons. They are still that is there in their soil after all this rebuilding and all. So that's about the world and the world reality in general. Okay. Yes. For Habermas, the French post-structuralist thinkers of the 1970s, such as Derrida and Foucault, represented a specific repudiation of this kind of Enlightenment modernity. They attacked, in his view, the ideals of reason, clarity, truth, and progress, and as they were thereby detached from the quest for justice. He identified them as young conservatives. Let us see the problem between this Habermas and our main figures like Derrida, Foucault. Why does he call them young conservatives? It's not a positive reference anyway. We will see why he opposes, or why he is not happy. Habermas is not happy about the post-structuralist thinkers. I told you some of the features in terms of freedom, at least we can match between postmodern tendency and the post-structuralist tendency. Maximum flexibility, fluidity, all these are practiced and promoted by them, both the movements. But here Habermas, if he talks about this modernity, an incomplete project, or he is badly in want of modernity to be completed, you cannot mark down him as postmodernist. Hope it is clear. And he says that he would like to, or Habermas wants that modernity, that application of human reason and power of thinking for the betterment of the society, or as a solution for the problems of human beings in general. But these post-structuralists come and they say that nothing like human reason, nothing like subject, nothing like fixedness. Everything is floating free of signifiers. You mean one thing, I mean another thing, he means something different, she means something different. So we all mean some different things. How will you fix meanings? How will you define human reason? There is nothing such as human reason. There is nothing such as human power. So this is the way post-structuralism talks in terms of human condition. Postmodern condition, postmodern individual. Out of definition, out of question of reason. So that's again about, and again Habermas is not happy about the way they deal with the human condition in that sense. So he says that represents a specific repudiation. It's about giving up or negating this kind of enlightenment modernity. At least let us see whether human reason can be made use for the betterment of society. That's what Habermas wants out of enlightenment reason or modernity. He keeps along with the enlightenment project, but here you see a lot of people like Derrida, Foucault, such as structuralist thinkers who are trying to repudiate this kind of enlightenment modernity, and they strictly advocate everything is lost, nothing is there for you to evaluate in terms of reason, intellectual power, nothing. Everything is already floating free. So they attacked in Habermas' view, these people, these young conservatives, not really appreciable according to him, the ideals of reason, clarity, truth and progress. Why don't you try with your reason? Why do you already declare this in very pessimistic manner that the world is like this, so let us accept that and let us go on in that way? Still, why can't we be very optimistic about rebuilding that? That's what he wants out of human reason and the belief on human reason. Who? Habermas wants out of human reason and the confidence on that. But here, these people are detached from the quest for justice. Why do you do in that way? That's what Habermas feels. And he identified them as young conservatives. You are the new generation conservatives. What do you mean by that? Conservatism. Like you are sticking on to what you mean. It's almost like a dogmatic stand. Dogmatism, in terms of English, if you explain, you won't get much idea. But I will tell you. In our own mother tongue. Normally you talk about people who are not ready to think in a different way. You stick on to what you believe. You are not even ready to opt or look at a second chance. That's what I mean by this dogmatism. The blind kind of being obstinate, blind way of staying obstinate towards what you believe. So that's about a conservative stand, and these people being the part of the modern time, postmodern time, he calls them to be young conservatives. They are young conservatives. The term postmodernism was used in the 1930s, but its current sense and work can be said to have begun with the John Franco's Lyotard's The Postmodern Condition, a report on knowledge. See, three of the names: Habermas, his idea we saw. Now we are going to talk about Lyotard. The main term, this major term, postmodernism, was used in the 1930s. You cannot say that modernism is there still, it's existing in a it's as high modernism. Even after that, 1960s and all, you can see modernist tendency and modernist writings coming, if not in a prominent manner. Still, modernism, the supporters of modernism, you could locate in the later stages of the century as well. But even then, you could see the seeds of postmodernism, at least the term and the ideas coming forth as postmodernism as the term itself in 1930s itself. But its current sense, but as a movement and a vogue, with all its sense and all its validity, it can be said to have begun with the Lyotard's The Postmodern Condition, a report on knowledge. Please note down the name of such textbooks. It's very important to note down the major figures and their major texts. They have a lot of contributions. Many other books also are there on the part of Derrida, Lyotard, whichever writer it may be, whichever theorists mentioned in these areas. But they are main books which are immediately connected with the theories with which they are explained or with which they are mentioned. It's very important to be noted down as such. Okay, so Lyotard's The Postmodern Condition, a report on knowledge. But we can see, let us see what does he say about that. What he say on that is about the postmodern condition. See, postmodern condition. It's about a state of being, a condition. Now, a report on knowledge. That's the main title of his book. Lyotard's essay answering the question, what is postmodernism? So obviously the title, it's an essay. That's why it's not in italics. It should be in double quotes. So the text length publication, you can see it in italics, the title. So it's first published, that's answering the question, what is postmodernism? It got first published in 1982, added in 1984 as the appendix to the Postmodern Condition, and included in Brooker's Modernism bar Postmodernism 1992, another book by Brooker's. Just try to recollect the name, but major texts I have highlighted in that way itself. Takes up this debate about the Enlightenment. Now again that essay is trying to take up the topic of enlightenment, mainly targeting Habermas. Habermas is targeted. Let us see what will happen between them in a slightly oblique manner. A glossing over manner. Let us see. Lyotard opens with a move which effectively turns the debate into a struggle to demonstrate that one's opponents are the real conservatives. Lyotard opens with a move which effectively turns the debate into a struggle to demonstrate that one's opponents are the real conservatives. A familiar bottom line of polemical writing on culture. Okay, I will tell you another example and get it very clear. Lyotard is not actually happy about Habermas mentioning the post-structuralist thinkers to be very young conservatives. But I am going to get this idea with a very beautiful quote that I have come across in the recent times. What is wrong and what is right, dear teacher? And the answer goes like, whatever things a person likes is right, and whatever he or she doesn't like is wrong. ശരിയും തെറ്റും എന്താണ് മാഷേ? ഒരു മനുഷ്യന് ഇഷ്ടമുള്ളതൊക്കെയും ശരികളും ഇഷ്ടമില്ലാത്തതൊക്കെയും തെറ്റുകളുമാണ്. Think about the philosophy under that, the depth of the truth behind that. Isn't it so? Yes, it's a kind of intolerance that we wrongly term or wrongly define to be right and wrong. It's about an intolerance of every human being. Whatever you are convenient with, you term it, you define it to be right. Whatever you are not happy about it, you term it to be wrong. How dare do you do that? Think about that along with the post-structuralism as well. As such. So that's the same way Lyotard opens the discussion. He says that whoever is your opponent, or whichever person is talking something against your idea, they become easily, you term them to be young conservatives or real conservatives. So this is the way Habermas also told. Now let us see a familiar bottom line polemic writing on culture. From every direction, he says, we are being urged to put an end to the experimentation. And after citing several other instances, he writes, obviously of Habermas. Let us see. I have read a thinker of repute who defends modernity against those he calls the neoconservatives under the banner of postmodernism. The latter would like, he believes, to get rid of the uncompleted project of modernism, that of enlightenment. Very funny. Notice that. Very reputed thinker. I have come across him calling some other people neoconservatives. But he says, under the banner of postmodernism, the latter would like, he believes, to get rid of the uncompleted project of modernism. Actually, it's about getting rid. What kind of a betterment of the society you are talking about out of this modernity, modernism, enlightenment, reason? What kind of a world you are going to rebuild? So this is about the stand-wise difference. Lyotard also is talking or saying that it's not possible. This is about a world which is too much scattered, too much shattered, much affected. So your positive stand, your optimism is fine. But you cannot say that people coming with such an idea, people who are talking very openly about this reality, you cannot blame them by imposing the label of neoconservatives. They are talking about a reality. Okay, so that is about Habermas. He also is not, Lyotard is also not happy about the way Habermas sticks on to, Habermas sticking on to this enlightenment, reason and all. Habermas is simply one voice in a chorus which is calling for an end to artistic experimentation and for order, unity, for identity, for security. You are just one voice in a chorus. Many people are still there who are sticking on to, who are still not able to come out of the fascination for the once existed harmonious, unified world and its ways of being. No longer that is possible. Please understand. You can idealize the family, values, systems, everything. Just think about the way teachers talk about the problems, the expectation. It's about a modernist stand. Like, we still expect people to make everything on time. We expect the students to arrive and join the classes on time. We talk about, we always want and wish for the students to be very prompt, punctual and all. But can you ever expect and demand that at this present day time? So definitely differences are there. If you accept or not, we can sense the difference. How we have been doing once we were students, how we do feel while we are teaching, and how we compare and contrast between the teachers of that time and the teachers of this time. The same way how we were students and how we did all those things, or how can we claim a kind of perfection in our stance? No. Even that time also people or students had been there in such and such way. Teachers have been in such and such way. Students of this time, students of that time. So it's about a human society, human gathering, a set of human beings together. So you cannot, every time you can expect multiple different kinds, different types with the different stances. But still you can, if you want as an outside observer, if you want, you can define, yes, during this time the nature, as a nature you can talk, students going in that way. And this time the students, the majority, normally that also is one another way. It's about talking about majority, defining a period, defining a sector of people, a class, a group of people, in terms of the majority and the situation, looking at the majority, the situation, condition of the majority. In terms of that, you can definitely mark down the period 1990s. That's why you have number of visual representation, like 90 kids, 2000 kids, the difference. If it is ideological, if it is out of some power structure, we don't know, but still that is there. Okay, so that he says, that's why he says it's about an arc. See, Habermas and other people, if they are going on with their clinging on to oppose this artistic experimentation, saying that we want harmony, we want unity, we want that kind of representation, unified narration. So you are talking against this artistic experimentation in terms of, or in view of, something ordered, something unified, or you are fascinated with the identity, sticking on to identity, security, and boys want to liquidate the heritage of the avant-gardes. Avant-garde is something new. You are trying to make it something new. Avant-gardes. Okay, avant-garde means make it new. So you are trying to make it new. You are trying to bring something new as per the situational demands, as per the present condition of the world. You are trying to stick, or you are trying to bring the art also, or you are trying to shape the art also that can contribute, or that can fit to represent the reality of this time. If you are still clinging on to your unity, fascination of other kinds, that is your choice. Still, you cannot say that, or you cannot demote the people who want to bring changes by labeling them to be neoconservatives, problematic people. So that is the stand of Habermas, which is opposed by Lyotard in his essay. Okay, for Lyotard, the Enlightenment, whose project Habermas wishes to continue, is simply one of the would-be authoritative, overarching, totalizing explanations of things like Christianity, Marxism, or the myth of scientific process. Yeah, Lyotard, he's going to talk about something very controversial. You see here? What does he say? Enlightenment. For Lyotard, the Enlightenment, whose project Habermas wishes to continue, is who? Habermas, the person who is fond of enlightenment, reason, all those, who is just he is continuing, or who is wishes to continue, is simply one of the would-be authoritative. Would-be authoritative means, again you are going back to something authoritative, fixed, overarching. You are giving a kind of idealizing, romanticizing picture of the world or the possibilities, or totalizing. You talk about totally, everyone is like this. Every human reason will bring you to, or bring something better. Human reason, if you use in that way, it brings such a wonderful impact. Do you think so? I don't think so. Or think about human beings, their reason, their power, they are using that power. How much, or the intensity of the positive impact. That's what we see in terms of deforestation, other natural calamities. How many animals did you see going for deforestation? They do not have reason. You claim about having reason, power, intellectual heights, think about the way they cause destruction, cause difficulties to the Mother Earth itself. Just think about the impact and the validity of their reason. The so-called reason which Habermas and other chorus, other people in his line of thinking talking about. If you are using it for better purposes, it's fine. But how many of you, how long can you claim about this kind of a betterment only being brought by applying the human reason and intellectual power? No, it's limited. So that it's about totalizing explanation of things like Christianity, Marxism. He's talking about 2 or 3 major discourse like ideas like Christianity. It stands for religions in general, where you have some fixed system, belief, reasonable explanation on the ways of human beings, or the way their whole nature is constituted. Think about Marxism, the way that got promoted and the way the extent of its success. You have to think about that. I'm not just talking about party politics. Was the theory really successful? So this is about Marxism, the myth of scientific process, another thing. You denied all the religious precepts and all, and a lot of people at the particular time period after Victorian dilemma, you know about the Victorian dilemma, where scientific process was hailed and praised like anything. You told that nothing can be no other explanation is needed, only you can believe in science. The scientific progress will change the face of the world. So these are certain examples, like instead of Christianity you can replace it with another religions. Instead of Marxism you can replace it with another political or other social movements and thoughts. Like myth of scientific process. Again, science in general, the trust kind of a sector of people impose or allow on scientific process or science in general. So did these or have these movements or discourses provided the solution for your problems? No. So sticking on to reason, sticking on to something based on reason or belief systems or something fixed also doesn't bring something better. So these meta-narratives, very important term, meta-narratives. These meta-narratives, super-narratives, which purport to explain and reassure, are really illusions, fostered in order to smother difference, opposition and plurality. This term is to be explained at a great length. We can opt for that in the next session only. Meta-narratives. Please keep in mind about this meta-narratives we are going to talk about in the next session. So obviously those ideas which we give maximum prominence, we take too much for granted, are meta-narratives. Okay, so this is the way. Next time we will talk about how these are just illusions that make us feel that these are credible, these are something to be something we are supposed to stick on to, but the invalidity, the incredibility of this, incredulity of this meta-narratives, we will talk later. For that, we have to know what this meta-narrative is or super-narratives are, and after that we will continue the discussion. Thank you so much for listening. Okay.